Ladies and gentlemen, the uninterrupted series of Echo Isles games has finally been halted, and we're about to witness a glorious human versus undead game between Side and JohnnyCage from Europe. Both players from Europe, of course, on Last Refuge. So I can't wait what's going to happen. I have no idea. The title gives it a little bit away. I'm just going to pretend I never saw that. But yeah, basically let's see what one of the best undeads in Europe, Side, who qualified for WCG in China, by the way, surprisingly, to some, not to all of the WarCraft 3 fans out there, though. What he can do on the undeads against our human player here, against the good JohnnyCage. Map, of course, as I said earlier, not Echo Isles this time around. We are playing on a larger map. We're playing on a map where there is more shenanigans possible in terms of creeping, in terms of expanding. Echo Isles, it seems, is always like a match of chess, you know, where basically you can expect the opponent's move if you're scouted carefully because the map is so well structured. On maps like, you know, Amazonia or Northern Isles or, you know, Last Refuge or even Concealed Hills, I think things are not always as predictable. Things are not always as easy to scout. So, more surprise shenanigans. Let's see what's going to happen here with JohnnyCage. Going for the good old Archmage. No romantic shenanigans here with a Blood Mage. Against Undead, of course, you need the Water Elementals early. You need the mana later for the Mountain King, potentially. And now we're going to take a look at Side, who is going for the Lord of the Bats. He is violating the first and foremost, most important rule of an Undead, which is always go DK. Without DK, your army is not even a real army. It's like a skeleton without bones. It's like a body without bones. It doesn't work, you know? It just won't work. Unless, friends, you go for something unexpected. And with this Dreadlord first build, we're likely going to see a couple of ghouls. We're likely going to see him sell his TP and go for a sacrificial skull. And then maybe go for a first fast expansion, you know? That's still something Undead players like to do every now and then. More often than not, I think this can be countered quite easily, and thus fail miserably. We have seen other lines of Undead fast expansions here. Yep, TP gets sold. There goes the Sacrificial Skull and Rod of Necromancy. So we've seen a little bit of a new school, new age kind of fast expansion by Undeads with a Death Knight. Players like 120. Don't you ever call him 120. It's something I keep doing myself, and I hate myself for doing it. 120 has done that on Echo Isles, for example, where he built an altar first, sold the altar after to have enough to have enough resources, and then build a fast expansion. So that's pretty cool. Not happening this time, though. The good old standard fast expansion with the Dreadlord. Of course, we can't call this standard because Dreadlord is far from standard these days. Against human, though, especially when humans aren't scouting, when they're not expecting it, it can work. Against Night Elf, I think it's a little bit harder, especially when there's a Keeper in the mix and some Wisps to dispel the unholy ground. Makes it really, really hard sometimes. But as it is, we see the Haunted Goldmine go down. And now we're going to have maybe one, maybe two Ziggurats here, depending on how heavily he wants to fortify that position. Are we seeing a graveyard? No. Okay, so without a graveyard, I don't think it's going to be more than one Ziggurat because you just want to have the Nerubian Tower here to slow units, to slow the Archmage. But two Nerubian Towers usually don't have value, don't make sense. So, unless you're going for a Tower Rush, Ziggurat Rush, which we've seen a couple of weeks ago already. Which was an astounding game. But yeah, for now, this Dreadlord, of course, with level 2, now has access to the Vampiric Aura. 20% lifesteal, pretty solid in my opinion. And especially when you have an abundance of ghouls to fall back to. Sleeps the Troll Priest, so there is no more inner fire buffing going on. Needs to be careful though, loses a ghoul here to the Mud Golem. Can't really afford to lose too many, because especially in the early stage of the game, every unit counts. Just in case there is a human counterattack, just in case you really need to defend your quick expansion. So yeah, not the cleanest of pulls here. There is a way, of course, to pull the mercenary creep camp without the big rock golem throwing the boulder. I think it has to do with the number of units that are in its vicinity at the beginning. And oh boy, unlucky. The Scourge Bone Chimes. Out of all the auras, out of all the items, that's the one you didn't want to have. Unless you're going to retrain your Dreadlord and skill into Carrion Swarm. Which, honestly, the more I think about it, could actually be a cool way of playing it. Carrion Swarm level 3, pretty powerful, especially when it comes to dealing with those peasants, right? So you basically shoot those carrion inside, and you get tons of AoE value and damage. Later on, if the human player likes to add something like siege tanks into the mix, you're already pre-prepared, you know? But of course, the Tomb of Retraining is not really available yet, so we're gonna have to wait for that. Gets, Wait, maybe he never even went... Wait, so I think the way he played it... Okay, so here's what happened. He's got Sleep and Carrion Swarm, and probably decided to go Carrion Swarm level 3. Sorry, by the way, for not having the overlay. Otherwise, we could actually do that a little bit easier. But I think ever since the hotfix patch, the overlay for WarCraft 3 decided not to work anymore. I tried to restart the game several times, but it just wouldn't work out. But I think he's got level 1 Vampiric Aura still, but decided to go for Carrion Swarm now. And he's probably going to either sell the Scourge Bone Chimes later or use the Tomb of Retraining. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting game already. Level 3 Dreadlord in the later stages of the game. I love the addition of the Boots of Speed, by the way. Really allows the Dreadlord to be a little bit more maneuverable, to catch heroes more easily with a Sleep Surround. Really, really like that choice. The stronger the Dreadlord gets, the more dangerous he becomes. That can be said about all heroes, of course. Duh. Kendrick with a 200 IQ statement there. But for the Dreadlord, I think it becomes particularly true. Summon Infernal is one of the strongest ults in the game, without a doubt. The AoE stun impact, the superior stats on the Infernal, and of course as well the chaos damage, super strong. Magic immunity, super strong. I like what JohnnyCage did here though. He bought a Telestaff and then used his footmen to harass the acolytes when the attack was, you know, to be expected. So this is so much economic damage. Of course, you know, Side can, of course, afford to lose a couple of acolytes because he has double economy too. He could even build another necropolis here, so he can go for the tech over there. And if another acolyte were to fall, he can reproduce new ones from the expansion. 2 Nerubian towers here, by the way, and 1 spirit tower to join the fray. So that looks really sweet. I guess it would be wise to build a necropolis here at some point anyway, so you can use that as a TP location. Also, of course, when you're low on lumber, building a necropolis actually makes more sense for food supply instead of ziggurats, which also cost lumber. Necropolis only costs gold. So here we go. Is this a one-hero play? I mean, Side only now started his tech. What about the tech on the human side? Almost completed, dude. You don't see it every day that a human is almost twice as fast with attack as an undead. But when there is fast expansion play, of course, it can be expected sometimes.
Town is under siege.
Beautiful Carrion Swarm Harass, level 4. The Arcane Tower needs to be respected, though. Needs to be respected. And it looks like Side is trying to make JohnnyCage taste a little bit of his own medicine here, going for a Ghoul Harass. Only 1 Ghoul, not really accomplishing a whole lot. So yeah, 2 economy play versus 2 economy play. What about the second hero? Is it going to be a neutral one? Is it going to be a Mountain King? Is it going to be a Paladin, which has seen a much more play ever since the changes in 1.31? Devotion Aura changes and stuff. Archmage also level 4 already, by the way. Second hero for the Undead, of course, nowhere near to be finished. Yeah, so I think what happened here for Side is I think he doesn't have his own Vampiric Aura at this point. He's got Sleep and Carrion Swarm because he found the Scourge Bone Chimes, which in my opinion is such a smart thing to do. Like, now you have single target disable with the Sleep against strong units or the heroes preferably. And you have Carrion Swarm, which against footmen, riflemen, siege tanks. I think it's just great in general against human. Against mass air, it's fantastic too. So, yeah, the Dreadlord could be a very scary hero to go up against in the late game. Look at the creep pull, though. The creeps are basically shooting at the undead, too. And here, speaking of creeps and mercenaries, 2 priests available. And also 1 berserker, right? With the neutral creeps, of course, this could be a good moment, perhaps, for the undead to make a statement. Double crypt ghoul production, by the way. I think we're going to see a straight-up tier 3 tech. Ah, he wanted to steal a creep there with the carrion swarm. Just a second too late there. Side with the next level ideas. We see a alchemist, by the way, joining the fray there as well. No Mountain King love. Instead going for armor reduction, I think, there. But a nice surround. This alchemist, though, far from being easy to kill with a health stone and a scroll of healing. I think Side actually saw that. And he was like, nope, we're not going to focus on that guy because all my ghouls are going to die in the meantime. Kills 1 priest. Almost the second one. Scroll of the Beast, Scroll of Healing. Everything is being used here by JohnnyCage. He's committed. He's all in that fight. Kills ghoul after ghoul as well. But of course, the good thing about ghouls, although they die so quickly, they can also be reproduced very fast. And the golden rule, never fight an undead base. The Dreadlord could go for mana pots here in the Tomb of Relics to keep those carrion swarms up. Only got 1 healing potion here, and I think, you know what? The Archmage says, this was enough. We've done the damage we wanted to deal. Level 5. Looks like the ghouls actually were sent around behind enemy lines and killed a couple of workers. And that is the cool thing you can do with these guerrilla groups of ghouls. That was a triple alliteration that I think sounds really cool. Guerrilla groups of ghouls. But yeah, you can basically do that to get more experience for the Dreadlord, who's now sitting comfortably at level 5. And this seems to be indeed a 1-hero play once again. Just like Romantic did earlier, we now see Side rushing that Infernal, rushing the summonable unit. So sick. And what does the human have, really? He's going into double barracks rifle production. Rifle, like rifles, when they're exposed to an Infernal, are having a bad day. This is something we're definitely going to see here a lot more. Dreadlord with a couple of potions to protect himself. With a movement speed boost, of course, he is more than safe. Needs to deal with mana issues, though. Like, if he found a Sobi Mask somewhere, or a Mana Stone, or something along those lines, that would be the most beautiful thing he could imagine. As such, buys a Potion of Mana, gets rid of the stats before, so the value gets better. And then it's probably going on a new mission. And this is basically something the Undead player can do when you have that Dreadlord available. What you do is either you use one of your guerrilla groups of ghouls, right? And you try to go in with the ghoul kills, or you only use your Dreadlord. You don't want to lose it. You just use it with a couple of carrion swarms in there. And those human peasants, eventually they will give you level 6. Look at the damage. Look at the damage. Focus on the workers. The Infernal is all you want to do. Not really agree with the fact that Side focuses on the towers too much. Gets 1 at least, though, so that's nice. Dreadlord needs to be careful. Doesn't have a TP. Uses the invisibility potion. Otherwise, he would have probably taken fatal damage. And now he tries to look for red workers. And look at it. It's a massacre down in the human expansion. Absolute massacre. Ghouls and workers lying next to one another. How much experience did that net the Dreadlord? Halfway through. And you know what? He's going for the main now. Oh, I love this play. Invisible. And there's no upgrade yet. No true sight for the towers. And he goes into the lumber line. 2. Baby a triple. Another 1. Almost. He summons the skeletons. Skeletons for extra damage potential. And to absorb some of the shots too. Oh my goodness. With just the tip. He gets another 1. Oh boy. And all of a sudden he went from 5.5 to 5.7. 5.8 even. Additional skellies. Does have a tally staff, so he doesn't worry about, you know, teleports. Oh my god, that's 2 Mo. He needs 1 Mo, but he doesn't have mana anymore. And the Archmage already there to defend the base, so it would have been a little bit too risky for him to stick around. The Infernal intensifies. The Infernal apprehension, expectation, it intensifies. And still we only see ghouls, ghouls, ghouls. All I want is ghouls. Mass ghouls with frenzy, 2-1 upgrades. Into mass rifleman. Why not? I think this is a legit call. By side, you know, with the arrival of the infernal, you basically stun them in place. Use several ghoul groups to surround them from all angles so they can't run away and take additional damage. With the vampiric aura, you're gonna melt them. But he needs mana. 1 mana pot is not enough. Excuse me. Use the mana pot right now. Win for a scroll of healing. So much value for those ghouls. A couple of destroyers now as well, I think, against the casters makes sense. I mean, he only does have priests, but there could be some sorceresses arriving soon. The water elementals, of course. Free food. Free destroyer food for sure. Goblin Shredder gets hired. And here goes the big side ghoul attack. We see the TP immediately. And now with those... Oh my goodness. Look at the destroyer damage. Look at the freaking carrion swarm damage. And brace for the impact, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to go down. It's about to rain an infernal. Not the cleanest location here. Actually gets blocked by the farm, so the immediate impact is not as strong as it could have been. But now, the big, mean killing machine with the vampiric aura. It's healing for so much. The rifles can barely touch it. It heals for more than the damage it takes. And that is a one fight in my opinion. If JohnnyCage doesn't find a remedy, some sort of counter to this infernal at once, this thing is going to ruin his day. The ghouls have almost all fallen though, but there's still a Dreadlord level 6. There's still a freaking infernal tearing things apart, like Lisa. But now the number of rifles still look good. The priest untouched. Speaking of healing and life leech, man, the humans definitely don't have to hide in that aspect. Now with the infernal, you definitely want to make sure to hide it. You don't want to lose it immediately because the cooldown is so high. And now we see the Wand of Wind coming into play. Is the Tally Staff ready? Yes, it is. Do we have another one? Yes, we do. And now the TP scroll has to be used because otherwise that Dreadlord would have fallen. Level 7 being the icing on the cake here. So he gets at least a little something out of it. But man, this game is going or is entering crazy stage. Sneaky hidden expansion here by side. Close to the human base. Sometimes you want to build those expansions close to your opponent because that's where they're not going to look. If I was JohnnyCage, I would check this location perhaps. I would of course check this one. But I wouldn't necessarily check this one because it's closer to the human expansion here, right? So sneaky beaky. But hey, I wouldn't check it, but guess what? JohnnyCage definitely would. So the Archmage already spotted the Secret Endeavor here. Kills the Acolyte. And speaking of good level 6 abilities, right? Good ultis. I mean, Infernal is nice and all, but Mass TP. That can win you games by outmaneuvering and out-rotating your opponent. Are we still going to see stubborn mass ghouls? Abominations. Abominations from Double Slaughterhouse. That is the way. I really, really like this addition. Much tankier than ghouls, obviously. AoE damage with a Plague Cloud. I like that. And not nearly as susceptible to the poison from the Alchemist as the ghouls are. There we go. Speaking of the Alchemist, by the way, getting dangerously close to level 6 with the Transmute. And what that does is you can actually then just devour abominations for great value. You know, 100% of the gold value goes over into your pockets. One of the few heroes, if not the only hero, that can actually carry a game despite you being out of gold mines. So sick. Level 7 Dreadlord. Now, as good as the Infernal is, guys, as good as the Carrion Swarm is, in terms of actual fighting power, the Dreadlord can't really add as much. He's not a fighting machine, he's a caster. So he's constantly low on mana. Really, really hard for Side to make anything work here. Ooh, this alchemy is this alchemist is a little bit spread out. He probably mistook it for illusion, maybe. But now he saw a rifleman, and when there's one rifleman, that means there's going to be more rifles. There's no way JohnnyCage would let these units roam individually. So here we go. Nice concave with riflemen and casters. That's going to be hard for the Undead to engage into. Needs to go in with an Infernal. Massive AoE stun, and this time it's not getting blocked by a farm. This time, the Infernal is right in the thick of things. And look at the damage from the friggin' Carrion Swarm, so strong. The ghouls are coming in as reinforcements as well. You need to send them into the backline all the way through. The abominations, no plague cloud yet, by the way, just normal raw abominations. Strong damage nonetheless against the medium armor. The infernal, completely untouched. The Burning Legion reigns supreme on the battlefield this time. Level 8 on the Dreadlord as well. These water elementals are nothing but liquid food for the destroyers, and Sight takes the game with a level 8 Dreadlord. And the help of ghouls, the help of abominations, but most importantly, a thick infernal for us to admire. And that's exactly what we wanted. Wonderful game. Strong double base play by the Undead from start to finish. It's relatively rare to see that the Undead expansion makes it all the way through. We usually see even human players harass it a little bit more. We see some good timing, like some good time pushes to actually kill off the ziggurats and abuse the fact that Undeads cannot TP in early. You basically want to attack while the necropolis is not necessarily there yet. So yeah, close game, but the Undeads reign supreme, and as a resident Undead main myself, I do approve. I hope you approve as well. If you did, feel free to inform me, feel free to notify me by dropping a thumbs up and a comment down in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, consider a sub as well. I would be very happy and very honored to welcome you back in the next video. Until then, take good care, peace.